Hello everyone, welcome to this classroom of unit number 4 for the subject Structural Design 1. This unit number 4 is related with the design of beams, specifically in steel structures, because we are dealing with the Structural Design 1, which is nothing but the design of steel structures. So let us see how exactly the design of beams is carried out, and for the design of beams, what are the previous things which we need to know, and then only based on that the design will be carried out. So let us go one by one. The very first thing is we will understand what is exactly the beam. So beam is that horizontal flexural member which carries the transverse loading, and because of the transverse loading this beam is subjected to bending. Here you can see this one steel structure is shown in this diagram. So in this steel structure here, these horizontal members are there, and these horizontal members will carry the load in vertical direction, means they are carrying the transverse load, and that is why this is referred as the horizontal member which carries the transverse load, and because of the transverse load they experience the bending, and these structural members are called as beams. So here that another arrangement for the beams is shown. Generally if it is a concrete structure or even for the steel structure, then that one slab element will be laid. This slab element rests on the beams. Then for beams, then there are different categories, or we can say different classifications are there. So let us see one by one those classifications. The first one is the primary beam. It is the beam which spans between the adjacent columns. Then secondary beams, the beam which is resting on the primary beam or which is resting on the main beam and that transfers the floor load to main beam, that is called as the secondary beam. Then floor beams are there. So floor beams means mainly the beams which are at the floor levels. Those are called as the floor beams. So here related to that some diagrams are shown. Basically first we have seen beam, that is the horizontal member which carries the transverse load, and then here that one arrangement is shown for the frame. Let's say here at 4 corners these columns are given, and then beams are provided to support this column. So here this is one beam, then this one is the another beam. So if you are observing it carefully, then you can mention that the outer peripheral beams are resting on the columns. See here that beam A to C, then beam C to F, or here beam A to E. These are the beams which are resting on the columns. So these are called as the primary beams, and whereas the beam BD which is resting on this primary beam is called as the secondary beam. Means here you will get the clear difference between the primary beam and the secondary beams. So primary beams are the beams which are spanning in between the adjacent columns. Those are called as primary beams. And secondary beams means the beams which are spanning between the primary beams or the beams which are provided above the primary beams. Those are called as the secondary beams. So in this diagram, the beam BD is called as the secondary beam. And as all these beams are provided at the floor levels, those are called as the floor beams. Then let us see some more classification there. So the next definition or the next term is called as, it is the girder, which is the floor level beam, but that is the major floor level beam, that is called as the girder or major beam. And you might have heard words like the plate girder or the gantry girder. Basically girder means the heavier beam or the beam which is carrying very heavy load. Like mainly those plate girders are used for railway structures. Means you can imagine about the load for that railway. How much load that railway will transfer on that beam. So at that particular place there we need this girder, means the beam which can carry heavy load. That is why it is called as the major beam. Then the next term is there, that is the girt. So it is the horizontal member fastened to and the spanning between the peripheral columns of an industrial buildings. They are also used to support the wall cladding, means in between the peripheral columns, whatever the beams are provided, those are called as girts. Then joists, beam supporting the floor construction, those are called as joists. And spandrels, so the exterior beams at the floor levels are called as the spandrels. Means here you can see that joist, spandrels, we are saying that all of them are at the floor level or the floor beams itself, but the spandrel means that is the exterior beam, and the joist means those will be other supporting beams for that floor level. And sometimes those joists can be even also the secondary beams, as what we saw in the previous diagram. And similarly for the spandrel, whatever the primary beams were provided, those were the exterior beams, so we can call them as a spandrel. So here related to this, diagrams are shown. Like here in the first diagram, you can see this one is the girder. What we are saying, girder means that is a major beam which is carrying the higher load or the heavier load, that is called as the girder. So at this outer end, this girder is shown. And then joists are given, means joists are the floor level beams. So all these different beams which are provided at the floor level, those are named as joists. And the girds. Girds, we have shown that the beams spanning in between the adjacent columns and which support for the cladding. So those are called as the girds. So this is the horizontal member which is spanning between these adjacent columns. So that is called as the gird. Here even we saw that another term, that is the spandrel. So this outer peripheral beam can also be referred as a spandrel. So likewise we can have these different classification for beam. Then next to that, there are different factors which affect the lateral stability of this beam. For this beam, to make it safe, the main thing we should consider, that is its lateral stability. So while we are designing, these some factors should be taken into consideration which should not affect that lateral stability of the beam. So out of those different factors, the first one is influence of the cross-sectional shape on the lateral torsional buckling. So what is this influence of the cross-section? Mainly in case of steel structures, either those open sections or closed sections are used. Open section means like we can say eye sections or channel sections. Those are called as the open sections. And closed sections means either the tube sections or box sections. Those are the closed sections. So what kind of the section we are using, that influences or it has the influence on that lateral torsional buckling on this beam. So that is why that cross section should taken into consideration. Then secondly, support conditions are there. So what are the support conditions? Like some lateral restraint is provided in between. So means at what place that lateral restraint is provided, depending on that the length of the beam is defined. So that is the support condition, which again affects the stability of that beam. Then there is the effective length. Depending on these support conditions, that effective length changes, means what kind of the restraint we are providing, and whether that lateral restraint is there or that torsional restraint or the warping restraint is given. Depending on that, even that effective length changes. So and based on that effective length, again that lateral stability gets affected. Then the next term is that level of application of the transverse load. Generally, that transverse load means if we just want to apply the point load, then we apply at the center of the beam. But if that point load is applied at the center of gravity, that is case 1, and the case 2, that point load is applied above the center of gravity, then there will be the change in the behavior of these two different loading conditions. The condition where that point load is applied above the center of gravity will experience some moment, some overturning effect, than that where the load is applied exactly on the center of gravity. So that is why that level of application of that load plays an important role again in that lateral stability of the beam. And the next one is that influence of the type of loading. Generally, the basic case for that loading condition we consider at the end, means for beams with equal and opposite end moments. But it is not the case that everywhere this thing will be applicable. Even those end moments can be different, and hence that influence of this type of loading means generally it will not happen that at ends the bending moment will be equal and opposite. It may get changed because of some different conditions or because of that loading, and that is why again it will affect the lateral stability of the beam. So these are the different factors which are affecting on that lateral stability. So for this, there are different modes of failure. The first one is that excessive bending, then that lateral torsional buckling is there, then the failure by local buckling of the flange, then local failure is considered. So for local failure, there are different cases, that shear yielding of the wave and local crushing of the wave, and then buckling of the thin flanges. So let us see one by one what are exactly these different modes of failure for the beam. So this first one is given, that excessive bending. Mainly this excessive bending means that is the basic failure mode provided with two cases. The first one is the beam is prevented from buckling laterally, and secondly the component elements are at least compact so that they do not buckle locally. Then this kind of the bending can be observed over here, means it is carrying that excessive bending, and because of that, so here you can see in the diagram that how exactly that bending is taking place. And means when the compact section is used, it is not allowed to buckle locally, then that complete section will get that complete section will experience a bending, and that is referred as the excessive bending. Then the next part is there, that is lateral torsional buckling. In my previous video, I have given you this term, what is exactly the buckling, what is the torsional buckling, and what is lateral torsional buckling. Mainly buckling means in case of the column we say that is the buckling, in case of beams we say that is the bending. That is when from the axis, that axis of the element is getting buckled, then we say that it is a buckling. And for that buckling, when it is even means along with the buckling in the lateral direction, when it is experiencing some twisting, then it is called as the lateral torsional buckling. So in case of this lateral torsional buckling, means this beam is experiencing this lateral displacement along with some twisting at its end. So this kind of the failure is called as this lateral torsional buckling. Then another mode of failure is local buckling of the flange. Again, that local buckling means what? Only some part of the flange is getting buckled. That is the local buckling. Here you can see this local buckling is shown. This is the complete flange, that is the compression flange of the member is shown. And in this compression flange, only this much portion is getting buckled. If its cross section is observed, then it is like this. Only this much portion of the flange has got buckled. So that is called as the local buckling of the flange. You can see here that only this middle portion of the flange got buckled. Then the next one is that shear yielding of the wave. Means what? Generally this kind of the failure occurs because of the heavier point load at the end. We know that in case of the beam, that at its end there is the shear, and if at end that wave is not properly connected with some arrangement, like some additional fasteners are not given, then it that failure of this wave can be observed, and which is called as the shear yielding of the wave. So you can see this another diagram for the shear yielding of the wave, means that shearing is taking place in case of the wave, which is referred as the shear yielding. Then local crushing of the wave. Now this local crushing means what? At the end, at the support of the beam, because of the applied load or because of that reaction which is getting developed, some portion of this wave can get crushed, or that only some portion of the wave can get buckled, which is called as that local crushing of the wave. Means only some portion is getting buckled, that is the local crushing. Then buckling of the thin flanges. So that is when that compression flange is considered, and because of the excessive loading, that buckling can take place in the compression flange. Basically when those wide flange beams are used, then in that case it may happen that the buckling of the flanges is taking place, which is shown here also, that this steel section is connected with the concrete slab, and here you can observe that some buckling is observed in this top flange, that is the compression flange of this beam. So these are the different modes of failures which may take place in beams. So now in beams, as per this subject is concerned, mainly two different types are given, and those are laterally supported beam and laterally unsupported beam. So So now let us see what are exactly this laterally supported and laterally unsupported beam. So let us see that first part, laterally supported one. Laterally supported, its name itself is suggesting that the support is given in the lateral direction, which is called as laterally supported beam. Then what are those cases? Like this first case is given, this is the steel section and its compression flange is embedded into the concrete. That might be the case in many of the bridges sections, or mainly for railway bridges, where at the bottom these steel beams are provided and above that the deck is placed, concrete deck is placed. So that compression flange of the steel beam will get embedded into the concrete, and that is why, because of this support, means that will act as a rigid support, and this will get prevented from the lateral buckling, or this support is provided in the lateral direction, and that is why this type of the beam is called as the laterally supported beam. Similarly, here the another condition is shown, that might be the case for primary and secondary beam. We can say this is the primary beam, and this is connected with the secondary beams on both of its sides. So because of those beams, again that lateral support is provided, and that is why again that type of the beam is referred as the laterally supported beam. Or here the different cases are given, like here 4 beams are there, and those 4 beams are connected with the bracing system. So because of this bracing system, again these beams have got the lateral support, and these beams will be designed as the laterally supported beam. Now for this laterally supported beam, that another diagram is shown, means as what we saw, this bracing system is provided. In some another cases, instead of the bracing, even this blocking can also be provided. So that will be also the case of laterally supported beam. So for then here we have seen that one concept, that wave buckling and wave crippling. So what is that wave buckling and wave crippling? Mainly that wave buckling means that is the overall failure of the wave, or that overall buckling of the wave. And that wave crippling means it is the that buckling takes place in only some portion of the wave. That is called as wave buckling and wave crippling. Mainly in the design of these laterally supported beams, these two checks are most important one. We need to apply that check for that wave buckling and wave crippling. As in the previous part, we saw that shear yielding of the wave. That because of that shear yielding itself, these two different failure modes can take place. So either it can be wave buckling or it can be wave crippling. As what we saw, that crushing of the wave at the support. So that crushing is nothing but wave crippling, where only some portion of the wave is getting buckled. That is called as the crushing of the wave, or it is called as a wave crippling. And when that complete wave is getting buckled, then it is called as the wave buckling. That overall buckling of the wave is taking place. So it is referred as the wave buckling. So for this wave buckling in our IS code, that mainly these two parts mainly this calculation is given, that we need to calculate this N1 part, or when we are applying that check for the wave buckling, then there this N1 needs to be calculated. So for this what is given as per the IS code, that this load dispersion takes place at an angle of 45 degree. That is why here at the support, means that suppose bearing plate is placed below the beam. So at its supports, that load is shown and its dispersion is taken up to the 45 degree, up to the half depth of this beam. And that is why accordingly, considering this 45 degree dispersion, this N1 is calculated, and then in the given formula we need to put this value. Means actually the formula is given like this, that B1 plus N1 into 2 into FC, where that B1 means this one width we need to consider, then N1. So to consider N1, this dispersion of the load should be considered, means this height will be equal to this width, and that is why we can consider this D by 2, by which we can get N1. T is the thickness and that FC, that is the stress, and accordingly this calculation will be done. Next to that there is wave crippling. So for wave crippling, that load dispersion is considered likewise, means it is at the slope of 1:2.5. In case of wave buckling, that load dispersion was at 45 degree. In case of wave crippling, the load dispersion is at the slope of 1:2.5, and based on this slope, this much length needs to be calculated, which is referred as N2 as per the given clause in our IS 800/2007. So these terms are included in that laterally supported beam and then laterally unsupported beam. So we saw that different kinds of the supports are given in the lateral direction for the beam, then it is referred as the laterally supported beam. If all those different kinds of the supports are not given, then the beam is treated as the laterally unsupported beam. In short, again, as per the name, we can conclude that if the support is not provided along the lateral direction, then the beam will be designed as the laterally unsupported beam. And if the support is given in the lateral direction, then the beam will be designed as the laterally supported beam. So as per this course is concerned, that is structural design 1, mainly these two types are considered, that is the laterally supported beam and laterally unsupported beam. And by considering then these different modes of failure and this wave buckling and wave crippling concepts, those design steps are implemented to get the safe beam, or to provide to ensure the safety and serviceability to those different types of beams. So thank you for listening this session. If you have any query, you can drop a mail to this email ID. Thank you so much.